Hey guys, it's Brenda here with mypastorswifedesigns.com, and today I want to share with you how I made this really cute card, actually using some scraps of different things that I had. I love how this card turned out. It has got to be one of my favorites so far this season. The stamp set I'm using is Greetings from Santa, and we are going to use Greetings from the North Pole and the reindeer. And we are going to be stamping those with basic black archival ink. And I'm going to go ahead and pull those stamps out, and that way we can get started. I'm also going to be using some washi tape from the new holiday catalog. I think it's really pretty. It just reminds me of a cozy Christmas, something just warm and just wants to draw me in, or a log cabin. I'm also going to be using our silver ribbon. This is our silver 1/8 inch ribbon, and it's a fun one to use. We'll be using the fine tip glue to put that on. I'm going to be using this Christmas paper. I'm going to use this side of it. Again, it's a scrap piece that I had. And I will be using Emerald Envy. And again, scrap pieces. I was trying to use up some scrap pieces. This is actually already pre-cut, and it is going to be 4 1/4 inches wide, and then it is 2 3/4 inch tall. It's going to be used for this piece. So let's go ahead and get started. So quickly, we're just going to do some stamping. Again, not a whole lot of stamping. I have a couple of different scraps of paper here. This one I believe is cut at, again, 4 1/4. And it is 1 1/4 inches wide. We're going to stamp our reindeer on it, and then I've just got this odd piece that I'm going to stamp, and then I'll trim it up for the greeting. And I'm going to go ahead using Greetings from the North Pole. Want to make sure my stamp is inked really well, and then I'm just going to come to one of my corners, press it down, don't rock it, just give it a nice press, let it sit for just a second so it sucks the ink off the pad, and there you have this nice crisp image. I'm going to set my stamp aside. Okay, next we're going to stamp our reindeer, and we're going to use a strip of paper. I had some, again, scraps in my scrap pile that I'm trying to use up. It's Whisper White. And it is 1 1/4 inches wide, tall, vertical, and then it is 4 1/4 inches wide for the card base. And then is what I did, because I wanted to line my reindeer up, is I took a piece of washi tape and just ran it. I don't know if you can see this, but I ran it right as close to the edge as I could get it, but with just a little bit of space, because I'm going to be adding the ribbon. And then I just carefully pressed it down to my grid paper. So go ahead, ink your stamp up good with your basic black. I always check to make sure I've got good coverage. And then I'm going to line the bottom edge of my stamp with the top edge of this washi tape right to the edge. Maybe even overlap it just a little tiny bit, but just remember where you did it. Press it down, don't rock it, let it soak that ink up. Nice crisp image. Want to do that again, and just kind of eyeball where you're going to space them apart. Hold it, let that suck that ink in. That's one of the tricks. I think a lot of times we hurry and either rock our stamp, or we don't allow it to have time to really soak in. And one more. All right, I love this image. I just think it's so pretty. Go ahead and close your ink and get that out of the way. You don't want it to dry out. And I'll clean my stamp in just a minute, and then I'm just going to lift this off my grid paper, and then I'm going to peel that washi tape off. Now, because it's going to take a little dry time, I want you to go ahead and get your fine tip glue pen, and I actually also used my silicone mat so that it didn't get all over and then I wouldn't be able to dry it. That's what they're there for. And I went ahead with my fine tip glue and I ran a strip of my fine tip glue along this top edge, right to the edge, a little bit thick. My arm just stuck to my desk. That's awesome. All right, and then along the bottom, and it's okay if it sits for a second, I think. Oh, I'm a little bit clogged up there. I don't know why. All right. Okay, and that is, what did I do? On there. Put your glue back together and get your tip in it so it doesn't dry out and then make it unusable. And then I had mentioned that we were going to use this silver ribbon, and I always give myself a little room to play, and I want to just take and run a strip right on top where I glued that, and then just carefully tap it down so that it can dry. And I'm going to trim it and just do the same thing again on the bottom along my glue edge. Again, you want to let it be able to have time to sit and dry while you assemble the rest of your card. And I always give myself a little bit of edges because I don't mind having a little bit to trim. It's a lot easier to work with it if you have some edge. And then give that a trim. I'm going to set this aside and just let it dry for a few minutes. Again, this is the silver 1/8 inch ribbon, and I just think it's so pretty and elegant. Now I'm going to get this out of the way because it's got a little bit of wet glue on it. I have a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and it's the little bit thicker, a little heavier weight, our heavyweight one instead of the lighter one. And I am going to go ahead, fold that over, and then I'm going to press it. And I always like to start in the middle so I don't have a crooked card, and I'm going to give that a nice press with my bone folder. Now this card base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I want to put this Christmas paper on my card base, and it is already cut at 4 inches because I want to have a border around it, but then I'm also going to need to cut it at 5 1/4 inches, I believe. Let me do that really quick and we'll see if that's what I wanted to do. Yes, at 5 1/4, because that just gives you this nice edge. So let's go ahead and get this assembled. I tend to use a little more than maybe most people do, but I also live in a climate that has really extreme weather. It's nothing for us to have a 90-degree day and a 42-degree night here in the high desert of Idaho. So that can really affect your adhesive, and so you want to keep that in mind sometimes because the things can come off if they don't have enough adhesive if you're dealing with climate. Now I want to get my green here, and I am going to take my washi tape and I want to put it on first. It's just easier to do that than trying to trim it once it's on the card. I'm going to eyeball it. I will put it on my grid paper so that I have an idea of where I want it to go. And then I'm going to actually line this up along the grid paper. Well, that stuck to my fingers and everything else. Let's try that again. Okay, I'm going to line this up again, like I said, to the grid paper so that I have a nice line, and I just want to have that 1/4 inch. Go ahead and press that down. Just give it a little tear, and then I'm just going to wrap it around because that way it'll have a nice edge. Turn it around so I can see what I'm doing here. And I am going to do the same thing on the other side here, the top. Hold this down. There we go. Goodness. All right, now I want to mount this on my card, and I want it to be about right there. So this time I'm going to use Fast Fuse. And it doesn't always go right over the washi tape, but that's okay because it'll stick in enough places that I don't think it's a concern. And I just want to line up an edge here so that everything is lined up. Put that down. Now we have our greetings from the North Pole, and you can trim this on your trimmer or trim it by hand. I have a little trick that I use that I want to show you for these more narrow pieces, that sometimes it can be difficult to get a nice, cut when you don't have much room. So first thing I do is I decide where I want it cut, and the first thing I'm going to do is just eyeball it with my where my blade cuts. Go up so it doesn't pull my paper down. Now I have too much down here on the edge, and I want to get that to line up and be in line with the top. So I'm going to use a piece of old washi tape that I'm not going to use anymore for projects, and I'm going to put it on just the edge of my sentiment here, because I know that I want this to be, as I'm looking at it on my trimmer, I want the cut line to be right there, and obviously I don't really have anything to push that up with. So I'm going to just take this washi tape, stick it on there, and it holds it in place, and then I'm not trying to, see, isn't that great? And it didn't move and it didn't affect it. Alrighty, now I want to just doctor this up just a little bit. Let's get the trimmer out of our way. And I'm going to take my corner rounder punch, and I want to round my edges. And this has a little place that you can just slide them in and line it up. You can actually feel it if you're careful enough. You can actually feel it slide into its spot here. So it's sometimes hard when the paper's really narrow, but just you'll get a feel for it. And then if it's too small, you can, I always turn it over and just kind of carefully eyeball it. So and then I just am going to leave it like that because I like the opposite edges. All right, and then got that. And then I want to put it on my card base. Whoops, sorry. I'm going to put it on my card base, and this is just going to be fun because I'm going to just stick a little tiny bit of adhesive on it so it doesn't, go anywhere should it get lost in the mail, or should something happen in the mail. And especially Christmas time, there's so much more mail and volume. You want your card that you worked so hard on to get there. Now I'm just going to take a piece of the washi tape and just tear it. I don't like it to be precise because the idea of tearing it just kind of gives it a fun look. And stick it down. All right. This is dry enough to handle now, so I am going to trim off my ribbon. Right, snip that off. And I want to use Stampin' Dimensionals on this, and I'll show you a little trick because it's so long. I have some edges of Stampin' Dimensionals, so I'm going to give that a trim, and that a trim, and run it right along the edge. It's a good way to use up your, what I call your extra, I don't even know if I have a name for it, I wish I did, but I really don't. But I save every piece because it's still dimensional and it still works. And who's going to look at the back? So I have all these, weird edges, and why not use them? And especially on the long ones, I like to use those. Now I don't, like I said before, or I've told you before, I like to put a few dimensionals in the center, just so it doesn't collapse in on it. And then I will probably do another That's, you know, this may be overkill, but I really work hard on my cards, and when I mail them, I want them to get there. So I've got all my dimensionals, and I'm going to just peel the backs off of everything. And I think the fun thing about this is, you know, you got to see how fast this card went together, and there wasn't a lot of, you know, time with the magic of video to say, oh, I can't get that done. I'm going to just line that up because it's the same length as, or the same width as my card. And then just give it a nice little press, and there you have it. I love this. It reminds me of Christmas and log cabins and fireplaces, and super easy, fun card to make. I hope you enjoyed making this card, and that you will join me again for my next card in my Christmas series. I think it's going to be a fun Christmas this year. A lot of handmade stuff, but a lot of things from the heart. This card goes together very quickly, and you could make a lot of them up in no time to send out. So again, thank you for joining me at mypastorswifedesigns.com, and I just want to remind you, go ahead and keep it creative. Thanks again.